Hello. Welcome to this episode of Pragmatics. We've just looked at semantics and now we're going to look at pragmatics. What is pragmatics? So let's start. Bless her heart, which actually should be said. Bless her heart. What am I saying? What does that really mean? That's a compositional phrase, right? Compositional meaning, but actually in the South it means, oh, poor little thing, she doesn't know what she's doing. Here we have carving the turkey. That's not what I meant when I asked you to carve it. Because if you carve a pumpkin, that would be different from carving a turkey, right? I love Thanksgiving. Let's talk about grammar versus discourse. What is a sentence? What's an utterance? Why does it matter? Who cares? A sentence is a grammatical entity, group of words expressing a complete thought. In English, you have to have a subject and a verb and a finite verb, so I can't say I to go to the store. In English, you have to conjugate that verb, right? And then you have a period, or maybe not. Some people, periods are kind of optional these days, right? So that's a sentence. That's kind of theoretical in the box, right? Then you go to the utterance. When you actually say the sentence. It's what you actually say, including your tone, inflection, pitch. So if I say, bless her heart, right? And attitude, gestures, if you pause, that's an utterance. Each time you say that sentence, it's a separate utterance. So if you repeat it, you'll have one sentence and two utterances. Yeah? So the grammatical entity is the same, but there are two events that have occurred, two utterances. So why do we care about this? Why do linguistics studying... Oh no, it's supposed to be linguists. Why do linguists studying meaning and context, which is pragmatics, want to look at speech as events, not just as a grammatical concept? Okay, here we go. Context and meaning. Sentences versus utterances. Okay. Let me think of a sentence that I can say. Oh, okay, this is a good one. I say, it would be nice for you to take the trash out. I don't say, take the trash out. I say it in a little nice, frilly way like Southerners do, right? Sentence meaning, take the trash out, right? Utterance. You might want to think about taking the trash out. That could be a possibility. What do I mean? Direct meaning and indirect meaning. So the direct meaning, my kids would get this. They would be over here with the hearer meaning. What do they hear? What do they perceive? You might want to take the trash out. Goes down here. I directly mean you might want to take the trash out. The hearer hears, well, I could do it, or I could not do it. Yeah, you might want to take the trash out. My indirect meaning is it's time for you to take the trash out. What the hearer hears from that utterance, you might want to take the trash out. The hearer indirectly here's a meaning which is, it's optional. She said might, right? I said it one time, but look at all these different possibilities. So what I say may not mean what this other person is thinking. So when my husband says gordita, he calls me gordita, which he only did once, many years ago. Little fatty, which is a term of endearment in Spanish. That's what he meant, was a term. It's a term of endearment. You're a little fatty, like I'm not so skinny, I'm not anorexic, yeah. Directly, I'm like, is he calling me a fatty? What? And then this is what he means. Oh, I love you so much, sweetie. But I hear, you're fat. Okay. So here we have this comic strip. Band practice my house 6 to 8. He says the same utterance 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Actually, he says the same sentence, but it's 4 different utterances. So here he's saying it. What is he meaning? And what does the hearer hear? Thanks for the reminder is one response. Thanks for the reminder, that's the second response. Thanks for the reminder is the third response. And then the parents are like, thanks for warning me. Okay? Okay. Context and meaning. Then there's invisible meaning. The chicken's ready to eat. The chicken is ready to eat, right? Then we have deictic words. So if you think about yourself, anytime you use a pronoun, yeah, you, he, she, it. If I am having a conversation and I say, Alexa told me that I should buy something on Amazon so that I could save $3. She told me that because then somebody says, who is she? Oh, it's Alexa. I guess it's a she because it's a woman voice, but I don't know. So there are 3 different types of deictic deixis. I'm sorry. I usually teach this in Spanish, so it's a little different. A word whose reference is dependent on linguistic context. You, me, she, her, mother, right? If I'm somewhere, well, let's say I'm at the pool with my daughter and I hear a kid say, Mom, I'm looking around. Is that for me? Am I the mom? Right? And there might be 20 moms there. Personal deixis, she versus my neighbor who lives next door, right? Spatial. Here, for me, is Arizona State University. Here for you would be something else. Or there, I could say it's there. It's over yonder. It's there. What does there mean? Where? Right? Temporal, time. Tomorrow. Oh, I thought you said that yesterday, so that would have been today, not tomorrow, right? Okay. It can be a little bit difficult to understand this. Learners who are learning a second language, that's the L2 learners, they will give you the same subject in their answer as the question because they're still trying to get all those things together. What do you think? You think that instead of I think that. Yeah. And also little kids. Here's an example. Layla want mommy's food. instead of I want your food. It's Layla, mommy's food. Yeah. So now that you have that information, think about this again. Yeah. So it all depends on the context. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Can you take the trash out? This is a common topic in my world. I don't know about you. Yeah? Types of context. Linguistic. Sentences uttered in a discord leading up to the utterance. So, Alexa told Alexa told Anne that she should buy this product. No? By the way, my daughter has a friend named Alexa, and she says, you don't even know. Okay. So whatever's said before, then I'll take that, and when I say she, it could be Anne, it could be Alexa, right? Situational. Depends on the situation. Rachel could be very tall. She could be short compared to somebody else, though, right? She could be tall for her age. She might be 5 foot, but she's taller than a bunch of other kids her same age, yeah? And then the other type of context, the third type, is social. So what is your role and what is my role? So if I say you need to be home by 6 o'clock, will I say that to my dad? Probably not. So that would be depending on what role you have in that particular conversation, in that context, what you might say, what you might not say. So I'm sorry and my bad mean the same thing, unless you're at a funeral. Yeah? Felicity. Felicity conditions determine whether or not a speech act is successful. So what am I talking about? A speech act is infelicitous if it's illogical. I promised to call you last year. Requirements aren't met. Felicity is happiness, so if the conversation makes sense and it's following, it's logical, all the requirements are met. I will buy you a Porsche, honey. I was going to say horse. I will buy you a Porsche, honey. You know what I'm going to say. It could also be infelicitous if it is a lie. But sometimes you just got to do it. Speech acts cannot be true or false, but they can be felicitous or infelicitous, right? So here again, you have logical or illogical, meeting requirements, and is it a lie? Okay? A teacher tells a pupil they must stay behind after class for detention. So the teacher tells the student, right? If I'm a teacher, I would say, zip it. Yeah? I have said that before. Versus if I'm on the street and I see a random gentleman walking down the street and I say, you need to stay after class today, zip it. That's not felicitous. What? Till next time.